Isn't it refreshing when free really means free? Whether you're a WagerTalk customer, a Sports Memo customer, a fan of our videos, or even if you're not a customer at all, everyone can get this week's edition of Gold Sheet for free. Enjoy write-ups and stat logs on every college football game this week to see the new and improved Gold Sheet layout for this season. To download, log into Gold Sheet's website using username free@goldsheet.com and the password free. No coupon, phone number, or email address is required. It's that simple. Come see why Gold Sheet has been this country's premier football betting newsletter for over 6 decades.
It is Friday, September 2nd, as we head into Labor Day weekend. It also means more college football as week one began last night on Thursday. September is here. Lots of college football to talk about here on Friday's Wager Talk Today, and we're going to do so in just a moment. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. Teddy, he went back to school. He went to university, but he will be expelled this weekend is my guess, and he'll be back on Monday. But in the meantime, we've got lots of college football to talk about. You're going to do a big game breakdown for Friday night action. We've got Dave Cokin, who's the tenured professor at WagerTalk.com. He's going to do 2 Friday night college football games as well. So a lot of Friday college football talk here off the top with 3 games going tonight. Also going to have Kevin Dolan looking at a Saturday college football game. He's looking at that Michigan-Colorado State game. Kevin, also the boxing expert at WagerTalk.com. So we're going to look at Ruiz Jr. and Ortiz for Sunday as well. And going to finish it off with Jimmy Adams, keeping with that college football theme. You know, he's from Arkansas. He lives in Arkansas. We're going to look at that Arkansas game along with the Appalachian State game tonight as well. So, look, a lot of college football to talk about for Friday and Saturday, and a little boxing for Sunday here on Wager Talk Today. But before we do that, Teddy, September is here. It started last night, week one. What did you learn in college football?
For the entire 2021 college football season, FBS versus FBS teams. There were a grand total of 2 fourth-quarter pick sixes to take a lead for the entire year. There were 2 last night on the Thursday of week one. You know, Pitt with the pick six to beat West Virginia by 7. Purdue with the pick six. And then Penn State finally woke up on the final drive and won that game by 4. Both of those games decided by exactly a half point against the spread to the closing number. Penn State was never -4 or higher. Pitt, West Virginia, there were 6.5s over the summer. There were 7.5s everywhere at kickoff, lands right in the middle. Wasn't the only middle that hit last night. But, you know, point spread insanity with the fourth quarter pick sixes in not 1, but 2 games last night. And that wasn't the only insanity. New Mexico State intercepted in the end zone. They got annihilated by Minnesota. They had a chance to cover at the end. They got picked in the end zone, 38-0 final. The Gophers cover -36. Point spread again, less than a field goal away from the actual final score. There was a middle last night. Ball State, Tennessee. Circa opened that total 71. The market closed 66.5. It lands 69, right in the middle. You had the first truly bad beat of the year last night. Okie State, -20.5, -21. They're up 51-15 against Central Michigan early third quarter. They pull the starters. The backups, not so good. The Chippewa touchdowns in that game came down 30 points, down 36 points, down 29 points, down 23 points, down 30 points again, and then down 22 points for the last one. And they made 3 2-point conversions as well, coming through the back door, 58-44 final. Oklahoma State's up 51-15. They do not cover the number. So that's 6 FBS versus FBS games, and 5 of them were worthy of mention from an ATS perspective. On the first full Thursday of betting action, betting skills matter every bit as much as handicapping skills. There are going to be lots of games that come down to the wire, ATS and compare over-under with the totals. Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say one thing about college football and the NFL as well. I mean, we have more scoring than ever. You know, it's more offense than ever. So you're going to have more plays like that, right? I mean, more passing, more big plays, and it's just going to be more randomness, I think. And then, of course, on a given, week, we're going to have 50, 60 college football games also. So the things are going to happen. But like you said, for just 6 games last night, and theoretically, day one of week one, September 1st, pretty crazy to see all that happen. Let's bring in Dave Cokin. He's the all-time college football leader at WagerTalk.com. And I want to get your thoughts, Dave. I know you put a lot of work into college football. Something you mentioned earlier this week when we were doing some shows on baseball, actually, was that, look, these lines move. It's another reason to have a direct subscription and get in early and lock in some numbers. And like Teddy said, a lot of games landing around in between and around the opening and closing numbers. Your thoughts on night one last night for week one, Dave?
Well, CLV worked out for me in the Pittsburgh game. So I was real happy with that fortunate win by 7. I got to talk about Jeff Brown for a minute, who I've always thought was one of the worst game clock management guys ever in college football. And I felt that way since the 2014 Bahamas Bowl, which I still think is the single worst loss I've ever taken in a game. They were up 49-14 in the fourth quarter, 35-point lead. And the game ended with Central Michigan, Cooper Rush at quarterback, trying to make a 2-point conversion after a touchdown to win the game. They got outscored 34-0 in the final quarter. And watching that game was like, Brown, what are you doing? Run the clock, you moron. He did it again last night. Brown lost the game for Purdue. Now, I got into an argument with some people on Twitter about this. It's like, well, we're trying to make a first down. Okay. But the one thing you don't do is stop the clock. The last 2 Purdue drives last night, they get the ball with a little over 6 minutes to go, never ran the football, threw it every down. They used up 1 minute and 34 seconds on 8 plays, which is ridiculous. And then they get the ball back, and he throws it twice again, which means Penn State still has 2 timeouts left when they get the ball. It changes the play quality for Penn State. Okay? Penn State can do whatever they want with 2 timeouts. If they don't have 2 timeouts, my guess, I can't prove it, but my guess is they're running stuff on the sidelines, stop the clock, get in field goal range, and try and get to overtime. Instead, they were able to run their entire offense, go up the middle if they wanted to. They could do anything they want. Brom's an idiot. I'm sorry. In that respect, he does a lot of things well. I love his offensive scheme, and he's obviously won a lot of games at Purdue, but he has no clue on clock management. I think he's one of the worst there's ever been in that department. And this goes all the way back to that Bahamas Bowl. He's never learned.
I was just saying, let's talk about another game tonight. Teddy mentioned that Oklahoma State blown big lead, the backdoor cover with Central Michigan. Let's talk about another MAC team tonight, Dave, another big dog in Western Michigan at Michigan State. How are you approaching this one? Is this a situation where the favorite's going to romp, or do we have to worry about a backdoor cover in this one as well?
I mean, you never know with backdoor covers, but I think Michigan State has a chance to really dominate this game. The one area that they weren't very good last year was the secondary, and I don't think that's going to be that much of a concern against the Western Michigan team that loses their quarterback, loses their offensive coordinator. Sky Moore was their best player. He's gone. The new quarterback, all I know is he didn't have a good spring, so we'll see what happens there. Western Michigan's going to run the ball, I would think. Sean Tyler's a really good back, but what happens when they fall behind and have to start the pass? Now, the one weakness on Michigan State last year was their secondary, but they've got most of their people back. They've heard this the entire offseason, is how bad the secondary was. So I think it's an area of focus this year. I think Michigan State's really good. Legit top 20 team, and they could be in the playoff hunt. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's Michigan's the team. Michigan and Ohio State, the teams to beat in the Big Ten, but Michigan State is in that conversation. I think it's an easy win. I expect a 4-touchdown win by Michigan State. Line's gone up. I played it when I was 19, so I'm real happy with that. There's been a little bit of buyback, which I'm not quite sure I understand, because I thought this thing would close about 23. But I don't see this as a difficult game for Michigan State. And at home, at night, season opener, this is a good spot.
So I have at least an inkling of a concept of why the money has come against the Spartans after it got bet up, and now it's been bet down. They're taking value with Western and betting it back down to 21. But it feels to me like there's a lot of anti-Michigan State sentiment in the betting markets, in large part because of what they did last year, where they were dominating turnover battles, but they weren't dominating yardage battles. Do the stats from last year, because it feels like last year's stats are having an undue impact on this particular point spread and keeping it deflated. Do you think last year's Michigan State mediocre stats matter in any way, shape, or form? Or do you think this team is, as you mentioned, a legit contender to battle with the likes of Ohio State and Michigan?
I think they're a legit team. I don't think they're as good as Ohio State and Michigan, but they're not miles behind either team. Tucker's turned the program around. He's done a good job. And this isn't your old Michigan State where they just plod along in D'Antonio style and become a miserable favorite. This team's, I think they're going to keep scoring. And Western Michigan can't stop anything. Western Michigan couldn't stop anybody last year. And the offense isn't as good as it was last year. So to me, that adds up to smash out.
And that is the national TV game, by the way, ESPN2, The Deuce at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight on Friday. A good handful of college football tonight on Friday. In fact, we got 5 games in the main betting rotation. Also got a couple FCS games added, and then some extra games. And William & Mary, my tribe, guys, opens up tonight at Charlotte. DraftKings put them as a 7-point dog yesterday. Then Wynn came out with 6, went to 3.5. Now it's 4. So, we talked about the games landing around the lines last night. These FCS extra games are crazy. Sportsbooks basically put them up the morning of, and you see big jumps in those as well. So I'll be keeping an eye on that game. Another game tonight on Friday, Dave, at 7:30 Eastern is Temple at Duke. One of the more competitive games tonight. We've got Duke as a 9-point favorite, though 9 to 9.5, even an 8.5 out there. How you playing this one? It's staying below that key number of 10 right now. Yeah,
we'll talk about Temple first. Once upon a time, this was about as bad a program as you could. I mean, they were Division I. I think it was pre-FBS, and they were terrible. And Al Golden, with the white shirt and tie, came in and turned the program around and made them, kind of respectable. Never great, but pretty good. They're trending back toward the very bottom of the FBS pack. I've got them well below average at everything this year. And I think they're worse than people think they are. Duke isn't any good, but there's some optimism. You've got some changes that have taken place there. They've got better athletes than Temple. I didn't bet this game, but my suspicion is you're not going to see many games where Temple's a single-digit road dog this year. This is a team that could end up being in the UL Monroe, New Mexico State, UMass, Connecticut realm. They might be that bad.
So I wouldn't argue at all with what you're saying about Temple as a bet against team. But Duke sure looks like a bet against team to me as well. This is bet against versus bet against, at least in my numbers and my offseason assessment of the two squads. And when you talk about, we're not going to see them as single-digit dogs very often. How many times are we going to see Duke favored by more than a touchdown this year? Is this a team we can trust to cover and ask them to win by a double-digit margin?
No, because that's why I didn't bet the game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Duke wins this by 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think that, look, by no means do I think Duke's a good team. I thought last year, just what was going on there during the season made them even worse than they were. I mean, they were hopeless last year. I think that attitude will be improved this year because of the changes in the offseason. So Duke might be a little bit better than people think, and Temple might be, it's hard to say because I don't know that anybody thinks they're any good, but Temple might still be a lot worse than people think they are. They could end up being one of those teams that goes out there and just gets destroyed every week.
It's Dave Cokin, and he's talking Temple Duke, 7:30 Eastern tonight on Friday on the ACC network. Once again, 2 Friday night college football games right here on WagerTalk Today. And Dave mentioned at the top, you're number 1 in MLB the last 3 years at WagerTalk.com. Good time of year to be playing some baseball. We got a couple months left there. Also, number 1 all-time in college football profits. So if there's one guy that maybe you want to think about for September, it's Dave Cokin for baseball and college football. Another reason to get an all access. And as Dave said, get in, get his plays early before these lines move against them. What else you got planned for this weekend, Dave?
I have 2 other games still to go. I got Pittsburgh ended up graded as a push last night, and I had a win last week with Illinois. So my volume's kind of low. I'm still mulling over a few games, but I have a suspicion I'm just going to sit with the 3 games I've got pending and see what happens. There's I never force plays anyway, but there's one that might make the cut. I'm going to go back and look at it a little more and read up on it. But expecting good things this weekend, and we'll see if it plays out that way starting tonight.
And by the way, if you're joining us this weekend on the replay here, you didn't miss out. He's also got the Monday Night Football game for free on his page. Check it out. Yeah, Dave.
Right. I want to also mention I'm on the baseball show today, first pitch, and I'll be doing a live spot with Jay Money at about the top of the hour. So a lot more college football talk on that show, and I hope you guys will check it out.
And follow him on Twitter at Dave Cokin to keep up to date when he's doing those appearances. Once again, baseball and college football, he's as good as it gets at WagerTalk.com. Good luck this weekend, Dave. And Teddy, a couple Friday night college football games there he just talked about, and we're going to go to a third. There's 5 big ones tonight on the main card. We've covered 2 of them. We're going to cover a third. You've got a big game breakdown for that Illinois-Indiana game, 20 seconds right after the break.
Isn't it refreshing when free really means free? Whether you're a WagerTalk customer, a Sports Memo customer, a fan of our videos, or even if you're not a customer at all, everyone can get this week's edition of Gold Sheet for free. Enjoy write-ups and stat logs on every college football game this week to see the new and improved Gold Sheet layout for this season. To download, log into Gold Sheet's website using username free@goldsheet.com and the password free. No coupon, phone number, or email address is required. It's that simple. Come see why Gold Sheet has been this country's premier football betting newsletter for over 6 decades.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk some Friday night college football. Fox Sports 1 national TV action in the Big Ten, Illinois and Indiana. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing the Hoosiers -1, -1.5 at home. Total sitting in the 46.5 range. We're seeing a little bit of Illinois money this morning, and we're seeing a little bit of over money this morning. I want to talk about Illinois here for a minute because this, to me, feels like a classic overreaction to what we saw week 1. Yes, Illinois beat Wyoming 38-6. They covered the spread with room to spare. They dominated the box score. The yardage was 477 at 212. I understand that. And I understand Wyoming's been tough in recent years. They were a bowl team last year. They've been in 4 bowls the last 6 years. They tend to be a tough squad. Not this year, they're not. Wyoming stinks this year. It's a complete rebuild. So Illinois is getting all of this credit for beating up on a team that isn't any good. You watched the game last week, Illinois quarterback Tommy DeVito. This guy's a stiff. He was a stiff at Syracuse for 4 years. He's a stiff at Illinois now. 37 pass attempts against a rebuilding defense with a lead, 194 yards. All right. And there were multiple throws in that game that I'm watching. I'm going, that would have been a pick against a good defense. That would have been an interception against a good defense. I do not trust Tommy DeVito at quarterback for Illinois. Then we got Ralph Michaels' data. You know, the team with the game under their belt, the GUB teams. Only 43% against the spread versus the teams that haven't had that warm-up game. The media and the mainstream kind of goes in the other direction. Oh, they got a game under their belt. When the reality tells us, the facts tell us, that's a money-losing proposition. Look, Indiana stunk last year, all right? They went 2-10 overall, 0-8 in conference. They had the worst offense in the Big Ten. The defense forced a grand total of 1 takeaway in the final 6 games. Their home opener in conference, kind of the game where if you think Tom Allen's going to keep his job, this is the game he's going to win. I think Indiana wins. I wouldn't be surprised they win comfortably. Give me the Hoosiers minus a point, minus a 1.5. I expect them to win by a field goal or more. Take Indiana on Friday night. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Friday night under the lights. 5 big games on the FBS card, and we've given you 3 of the 5 already here on WagerTalk today, and that's the 8 o'clock Eastern Fox Sports 1 game tonight on Friday. A time change, first on the schedule, because at 8 o'clock Eastern now, Illinois at Indiana. And Teddy, going to bring in Kevin Dolan. I want to follow up with you on that. Teams with a game under their belt. This is an angle, obviously, in the preseason of the NFL. Since I started in the 90s, you'd often see it work well, and then the odds makers caught on, and we'd start seeing an extra field goal plus tacked on to that NFL team that had a game under their belt for maybe the Hall of Fame game, usually is when it occurred. The reason this is only hitting 43%, do you think there's a disadvantage, or do you think it's more that the lines have been adjusted over the years, and that's why these college teams that have a game under their belt just aren't performing well ATS?
I would think for sure that it is. I think for sure. I would have to think that it's an overreaction to the week 1 results from the teams that look good week 1. I mean, plain and simple. Much more than the teams have changed themselves. No, the betting markets react to what they see, and in college football, the betting markets react a lot to what they see really quick. And again, Illinois, the box score looked good last week. You watched them on paper. You watched the game. All right, hey, they control the line of scrimmage. There's things to like, but if you have any nuance in college football and you recognize this is not Wyoming's team from last year, you say Illinois, maybe they're a little bit overvalued off of what they did a week ago. And that is at least a part of the reason why the Gub teams game under their belt have been negative propositions, ATS, for the last, half decade, more than half decade. I think those numbers go back to 2014 that Ralph published.
Yeah, we have seen this line drop from that key number of 3 down to 1.5, even 1. So there has been some line movement as well on Illinois from an opener. Kevin Dolan, let's go across the world. Not across the country. Let's go across the world to Korea and get Kevin Dolan, who is an international sports expert. And we're going to look at another college football game with him for Saturday in a moment. But Kevin, want to mix it up a little bit here and talk some boxing with you. And by the way, Kevin and I, along with Drew Martin, did 3 preview videos earlier in this week, which are standalone videos on WagerTalk TV right now, including 2 of the biggest games of the week. Kevin and I talked Notre Dame, Ohio State, also talked that Oregon-Georgia game. So I recommend going back and checking those out here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, you can download the WagerTalk TV app for all your favorite devices. If you haven't already done so, please do so. And look, we ask you to give a thumbs up, like, subscribe here on YouTube, WagerTalk TV. If you download the app, it's free. As a thank you, just leave us a quick rating. Even if you don't have time to type anything, just give it 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever you like. Leave it a rating after you download the WagerTalk TV app on your favorite mobile device. Kevin, we're going to look at some college football in a moment, but let's look at some boxing because you are the boxing expert at WagerTalk.com. We've got a fight this Sunday to talk about, and I want to get your thoughts on Andy Ruiz Jr. and Luis Ortiz. How are you breaking this one down for some Sunday boxing?
Yeah, big heavyweight clash on Sunday, Steve. And, it's between 2 guys who, if they win here, potentially land themselves another big showdown spot with one of the champs sometime next year. In Ruiz's case, it would be a return to the top. He's already been, champion after his win against Anthony Joshua. But, we've also seen Ortiz, for years circle this heavyweight mountain as well, fought Deontay Wilder twice for the title. So it really is his last chance saloon here at a world title tilt, especially at 43 years of age. So in terms of how I see this fight going, I think Ortiz needs to start out cautious here. He still showed he has a ton of power in his most recent knockout of Charles Martin back in January. But he also showed some defensive vulnerabilities in that fight as well. I'm not going to overanalyze them too much. YouTube lit up after that fight because, people were like, oh, he's clearly on the slide now. But, it wasn't quite that clear cut because while both fighters went down in that fight twice, it was a back and forth war early on. There was a marked difference in how both men went down in that one. Ortiz went down with a kind of cuffing off balance shot behind the head early. He went down again with a straight jab. And Lennox Lewis actually made a great point in the commentary when he mentioned Ortiz's legs might be gone. He can still take a good shot upstairs, but downstairs might be a different matter. That wasn't the case with Charles Martin. He was completely roasted in that final knockdown. Ortiz hit him so hard, he didn't even know where he was. He was kind of, it was scary stuff. He was kind of hobbling around the corner of the ring. So, while Ortiz definitely has showed signs of age, signs of decline, understandable at the age he is, he also showed why he's so dangerous in there still. And Andy Ruiz, big favorite here, but he really needs to watch himself in this fight. He was hurt multiple times by a faded Chris Arreola. In his last fight, he went down hard as well. So, if Ruiz starts taking those same kind of big shots here against a guy who cracks much harder than Arreola and Luis Ortiz, it might be curtains for him in this one. So Ruiz is going off at a massive favorite here, minus 400. And whenever people talk about Ruiz as well, it's always, if he can do this, if he can kind of implement this, people always expecting him to turn into some kind of monster if he can check boxes A, B, and C, usually the weight issue. But, the fact of the matter is, this is who, Andy Ruiz is. He's on his third trainer in as many years. And even more than the physical factors for Ruiz or the mental ones, Ruiz reminds me so much of another heavyweight and former opponent of his, Joseph Parker, in the respect they're just quite happy to coast through fights. Go back to the Chris Arreola fight. Ruiz only looked truly dangerous when Arreola was kind of sticking it on him in that fight. Same in the first fight against Joshua. Took Joshua to actually put him on the canvas before he actually woke up in that fight. Same against Parker over New Zealand. Same in the Joshua rematch. So these fighters like Parker, like Ruiz, they're so frustrating in the sense they've got so much talent. But, I could easily see guys like Joseph Parker refereeing a cricket game or something, very lackadaisical sometimes when they're going for the win. So they are at their best when someone steps it up, puts it on them. Is that going to be Ortiz in this fight? I don't think so. As we mentioned at the start, I think Ortiz will have to look to be patient in there. He's the far superior counter-puncher of the two. So I believe he's just going to sit back, wait for that big shot. And I just think Ruiz will be content with that. Very rarely do we ever see him really look to step on the gas, and force the closure in a fight. So I'm going to take Ruiz to win this one by decision at plus 275. I think that's a massive price. Ortiz is getting on an age. Perhaps he fades down the stretch here. He hasn't fought many times since 2019, gets stopped late, but at plus 275, that's way too big of a number for me. So Andy Ruiz Jr. by decision this weekend, plus 275. That's something that's already on my card.
Kevin Dolan talking the main event Sunday night in LA. Heavyweight bout between Ortiz and Ruiz. He says take Ruiz by decision. Here's my question for you. Sounds like you like the over 9.5 in this 9.5 rounds in this fight. As you're going through it, I'm like, it sounds like he likes the over. Would you look in that direction in this fight as well? 9.5 rounds or under for this one.
I really like the odds, Teddy, plus 275. The problem with the over-under, and it's something that, I mentioned when I talked about Lennox Lewis. Luis Ortiz had 2 fights since 2019. So we're just, the first fight back, he knocked out the guy in 1 round. We seen the Charles Martin fight back in January. He kind of looked a bit shaky. So we're just not sure if he's the same, if the decline isn't that bad, he can definitely hang in this fight. He can win this fight. But if the decline is that bad, because Charles Martin is no world beater by any stage, he is a former world champion. But, anyone who follows boxing, that was one of the weakest world champions in the last few years. So it's just more of a question. There's too many question marks for me in terms of taking an over-under in this fight because, Luis Ortiz could have fell off a cliff by now for all we know in terms of his stamina. But at plus 275, I'm willing to take that risk because, we're getting compensated well.
It's Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. You can follow Kevin on Twitter at TheSportsWolf83, TheSportsWolf83. And I bring that up because Kevin had to leave Ireland and go across the world to finally find some Swiss Miss. So I was wondering, Kevin, if you've had a chance to sample it yet. He discovered it in Korea next to some Chips Ahoy, Teddy, and a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, but it's actually just Potato Head now. I don't know if Korea, they've gotten the memo that it's not politically correct to call it Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head. Kevin, have you tried the Swiss Miss yet? Have you partaken?
I have not, Steve. I have a box of it up in the cupboard. I haven't had a chance to get it on, but the next time we come on, maybe Triple G Canelo will be back on the show. I'll give him a verdict on how it tastes.
And we're, of course, looking forward to the NBA tip-off show with both Teddy and Kevin Dolan and myself and Joe Ranieri. NBA is just a couple months away, boys, and the Donovan Mitchell news as we're finishing up the college football show yesterday. Joe's talking NBA already, so that's right around the corner, and there'll be some Swiss flags and Swiss Miss. For Kevin Dolan, who's from Ireland, lives in Korea, Swiss flag. You figured out talking American boxing in L.A. Hey, let's keep with the American sports. By the way, Kevin does quite well with football. In fact, up 129 units on all 4 and 5% college football plays. That's over 200 selections. So check him out for these American sports. And going to talk about Teddy covers Michigan Wolverines. We had to talk Teddy's Michigan Wolverines. And we got Colorado State, Michigan. How are you looking at this one on Saturday, Kevin?
Yeah, this is another play that's already made my card, Steve. And I took the Wolverines minus the points in this one on Saturday against Colorado State. Michigan, seasons past, they just absolutely bring it out of the blocks quick every year. Season openers, they blew the doors off Western Michigan by 33 in this venue last year. Beat Middle Tennessee by double digits. Beat a top 20 ranked Florida team by double digits the year before that. So this team do have a phenomenal record in season openers going back to years past. Jim Harbaugh's 5-2 in season openers with Michigan. The Wolverines have won 11 of the last 15. 116-23 historically. That's a pretty incredible record. So, especially boasting the biggest attendance in college football as well, the Wolverines kind of always show up big for these season opener games in Ann Arbor. So they're taking on a Colorado State team this weekend who, have a new head coach this year in Jay Norvell, new freshman quarterback as well in Clay Millen. They're just 2-17 in their program's history against top 10 nationally ranked teams. So, with the fact that this is such a huge home opener for them, they opened up against South Dakota State last year. This is obviously a far bigger game. I think this will prove to be a bridge too far for the Rams in this one. Colorado State did play Alabama back in 2013 and 2017. So, they do have some big game experience in travel and venues, but still this will be their biggest ever attendance in a college football game on Saturday. And they're taking on a Michigan team, who have ranked top 5 in the nation defensively in 4 of the last 5 years. The only time they ranked outside of that top 5 ranking, they were 12th. So this team is elite, especially defensively. And Colorado State come off a season where they ranked just 91st in the nation in total offensive points per game. So, if Michigan can get up early in this one, I think it has a kind of snowball effect. So, even with missing the best of the number here, I made this game 33.5 on my numbers personally. So I still see some value at the current line. And I expect the Wolverines to win and cover on Saturday against the Rams up in Ann Arbor.
So Jim Harbaugh's come out and said that he is going to play both quarterbacks in each of the first 2 games, Caden McNamara and J.J. McCarthy, as the competition was not settled in camp. Does that make you like Michigan more with 2 QBs with something on the line? Or does that concern you a little bit because this means the Wolverines, if they're shuttling QBs back and forth in and out of the ballgame, that's not necessarily the best case scenario for a team trying to build a rhythm and put up touchdowns to cover a 30-plus point spread. So talk to me about the QB shuffle for Michigan and how that affects your mentality for this game.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a bit of competition, Teddy. I think, while that's been the plan, I think depending on what happens here in game 1 will obviously influence a lot in game 2. If Cade McNamara can put up big numbers. And look, the returning guys like wide receiver Captain Ronnie Bell, they've got tight end Eric Owl as well. So, I still see it as a pretty positive thing, bring out the best in competition. And what I like about the Big Ten is they don't get that automatic, kind of SEC look towards a playoff spot. Style points still matter in the Big Ten, especially with Michigan. So, I see it as a positive.
That is Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. And once again, he knows his college football, up over 129 units in college football and 4 and 5% best bets. Don't forget also boxing main event Sunday night. We've got one college football game, but the boxing event is big as well. Kevin, what else you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
We got a 5% college football triple pack loaded up for tomorrow, as you said, Steve, plus 129.19 units banked over the last 207, 4-5% top plays. So pretty happy with that. We got a boxing triple pack loaded up as well for both Saturday and Sunday, a Saturday soccer 4-pack. And we got a 5% Spanish La Liga top play up for Monday as well. You can pick that up right now for only $9 for the WagerTalk special Monday promotion. And, definitely not one to be missed. We're 10-1 on all Spanish La Liga top plays since March. So looking forward to that one as well. So, all good my end. And, looking forward to a big weekend.
Yeah, he knows his soccer as well. Once again, a 10-1 run going back to March on those Spanish plays, and you can get it for just $9. It ain't $9 Monday. It's $9 Friday, Saturday. So it's everything there with that soccer play for Kevin Dolan. at WagerTalk.com. Good luck, Kevin. Looking forward to seeing Kevin at the next meet and greet in Las Vegas. Hopefully he'll make the cross world tour there as Tokyo Brandon did this last time. And one guy, Teddy, we did see and meet in person this past month in Las Vegas is Jimmy Adams. I mentioned Kevin Dolan moves from Ireland to Korea to talk American sports. Well, Jimmy Adams did Reno, Arkansas. If you had to guess, you would have thought he went from Arkansas to Reno as a professional bettor, but he did the opposite. He went from Reno to Arkansas as a professional bettor, and he is now an Arkansas insider. And Jimmy, we're going to get to that game in just a moment, but good to see you again. I hope you made it safely back from Nevada, your home state, to your current home state, Arkansas. And let's jump right in. It's an interesting game to talk about. Cincinnati's been that power team trying to disrupt the big boys. A lot of people think they might be down a notch this year, so I want to get your thoughts on that. And also your thoughts on your Arkansas Razorbacks as they're a 6.5-point favorite on Saturday.
Yeah, you can feel the energy. It's my first football season in SEC country, and I am stoked. Cincinnati's got a big wake-up call coming tomorrow as they visit Fayetteville. They had a great year last year, obviously. They make the college football playoff. Make money betting against them, as they might be a little overrated in the betting market entering the year. This was a team that lost a ton of talent from a season ago. Desmond Ridder, Alec Pierce, Jerome Ford, just to name a few. And they lost a ton of talent on the defensive side as well. Despite as good a season as they had last year, from a statistical standpoint, Cincinnati really didn't rank as high as you might from a team that made the playoff. They were 58th in total offense in the country, and they benefited from a lot of takeaways. I give them credit for that. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to replicate that this season. And this game comes down to the trenches. They're going to get absolutely manhandled on both the offensive and defensive lines. They're just not going to be able to hang in Fayetteville. Then we have an Arkansas team that is a program on the rise. They led the SEC in rushing a season ago. They were a sneaky good team passing with a top 10 offensive efficiency in the country last season. And KJ Jefferson, he's in line for a big year. Dual threat, big quarterback. He'll be able to run. He'll be able to sling it downfield. Cincinnati's not going to be able to stop Arkansas. And I expect the Razorbacks to win by multiple touchdowns tomorrow in Fayetteville.
All right, Jimmy. I got to give the other side, because I looked at Arkansas and I ended up passing on the game because I was scared as hell of what Luke Fickell is bringing to the table with the Bearcats this year. You talk about last year, elite. This defense hasn't allowed more than 20 points per game in the last 4 seasons. When you read every quote coming out of Cincinnati and every quote coming out of Fickell and his staff, they're like, we'll be fine. Yes, they lost 9 players to the NFL draft. And yet, when you read the coaching staff quotes, when you read the player quotes, so this team in the last 2 years has played Georgia, Alabama, Memphis, Houston, Indiana, Notre Dame. I can go on and on. They allowed more than 28 points once during that span. They allowed more than 24 only twice. You think this defense is really going to drop off that much? You think Arkansas is really going to smack this team around? An Arkansas team that has some questions with their passing game. If they're not running, they're not winning. So respond.
Sure, yeah. So Cincinnati, definitely not a team that's talentless, but at the same time, they're not a team that's going to be able to reload like in Ohio State and Alabama. Good quotes coming out of Cincinnati. I'd be shocked if there weren't great quotes coming out from Luke Fickell's bunch. But where I think the main difference in this game is I don't think they have the size and athleticism to be able to compete. And then you look at Arkansas, a program that's totally on the rise. I mean, last year they lose to Ole Miss by 1. They lose to Alabama by 7. Had a couple tough losses versus Auburn and Georgia, but that's it. I mean, things set up real well for the Razorbacks this year. The only negative Arkansas is the schedule. Whoever made that schedule, the set of stones on them. I mean, they got Cincinnati, Liberty. They go to BYU in non-con, and that's on top of an SEC schedule. So that's the negative for them. But other than that, Arkansas is a very talented and good team, and they can win this game by touchdown.
And that game is at 3:30 Eastern Saturday, Cincinnati at Arkansas on ESPN National TV, and that is a battle of top 25 teams. I bring that up because I will have this game as part of my top 25 video on Friday night into Saturday morning here on WagerTalk TV. So I know we don't have the daily shows, but there's still weekend content here on WagerTalk TV, and I'll be talking about the big top 25 matchups with that college football video. So check it out on Friday night/Saturday morning. Once again, if you haven't downloaded the WagerTalk TV app, do so now, as you can watch these shows anytime on your favorite mobile devices. And, of course, college football today is on Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern, including today on Friday. And I was on yesterday, Thursday, and we talked about North Carolina at Appalachian State as one of the three games. Teddy also did a big game breakdown earlier this week here on this show, so go back and get some bonus coverage on that. But, Jimmy, I want to get your thoughts on this game as well, as we've seen Appalachian State open as almost a field goal dog. When I was doing the show yesterday, they were maybe a 1-point dog, pick them in a lot of spots. And basically the panel all agreed that this game would probably be Appalachian State minus by the time it kicked off. We didn't even have to wait till Saturday. We're seeing Appalachian State now as a favorite for this game at noon Eastern Saturday. North Carolina going to Boone, North Carolina to play Appalachian State. How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, I agree with the line move. I mean, we've seen the side flip, like you said, and I think this is a great opportunity for App State to get a home win against an in-state rival, if you will, with UNC. Mountaineers very strong offensively. Finished second in the conference last season. They have a lot of returning talent. Finished second in the Sun Belt in total offense and scoring a season ago. Everyone's back on the offensive line except for the center. So they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to sling it downfield. They were great in pass protection a season ago. And defensively, they do have to replace a lot of key players. But this was a unit that was really strong at stopping the run and really strong at tackles for loss. So then you look at a North Carolina team that was absolutely abysmal defensively last year. They were obviously replacing Sam Howell. And big question marks on the offensive line. This North Carolina O-line was terrible in pass protection a season ago. App State's going to make them one-dimensional. We're going to see how Drake May does. He already put up some stats against FAMU, but I won't read too much into that. They're going to have a tough time running the ball. They may be able to throw it and score a little bit, but they're certainly not going to be able to stop the Mountaineers from scoring. So give me App State on the money line at this point.
So here's my question for you. Week one of college football, what are we going to see? We're going to see half a dozen games decided this weekend on a special teams play from a point spread perspective. We'll see. That's my over-under would be 6.5 games decided ATS by, someone gets pinned deep in their own zone and then they had a safety, or there's going to be a punt return touchdown or a block punt, or on and on down the line. You see, especially week one, a ton of games decided by special teams and special teams edges one way or the other. When you talk about a pick'em game like this one, the special teams are even more important. And App State graduated everybody. Their punter, their kicker, their long snapper, their two-time all-conference kick returner. North Carolina, I think, might have a pretty big edge on special teams. Does that concern you for this matchup? Again, in a game where it's the straight-up winner is going to cover the point spread in that pick'em range, are you worried at all about special teams edges for one team or the other? Or is that, you can go crazy with too much info. Is that just too much info?
No, that's a great point you made, Teddy. And I think special teams kind of falls under the radar and needs to be into account more and more. I agree with you that UNC does hold the edge in special teams, but I'm much more concerned with their offensive line, pass protection, and how bad they were defensively last year. I haven't seen any indication that they're going to be able to slow down the Mountaineers at all, especially at home. So the market agreeing with me. I mean, we're not getting the best of the number at this point, but I think it's still worth a money line. And I'll be on App State.
And that is the noon Eastern kickoff on Saturday afternoon, North Carolina, Appalachian State, a big card of college football, both Friday and Saturday. And we covered several games here on WagerTalk TV. And that is Jimmy Adams. And don't forget about baseball, because Jimmy's on a 20-6, 5% run, 77% in sports right now, and mainly a lot of baseball recently. And Jimmy, you've got a 5%er going tonight on Friday, also some college football for Saturday. Tell us about it, wagertalk.com.
I do. Yeah. Thanks as always, Steve and Teddy. Great to be on. 5% plays have been great. 20-6 run, as Steve just mentioned. And I was shocked when I saw this line come out last night. I said, we have to make this a big ticket play to start the month. So jump on that. And then we have a big card lined up for tomorrow. So hopefully make it a good start to September, and good luck to both of you as well.
Thanks, Jimmy. And that's a 5% best bet for Friday Night Baseball from Jimmy Adams on a 20-6 5% run. And Teddy, speaking of hot, obviously you've been on a nice run as well, my man. So keep that going this weekend on a mere 14-2, 88% all sports run the last 10 days. Number one in net profits, to say the least, all the way back to since February 1st. It hasn't just been this current run, just a monster run, up 62 net games. That's a 188% return on investment since February 1st. So Teddy covers seeing it well. And Teddy, I'll let us take us home. Just a quick reminder once again to thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment below. Let's get some comments going on the weekend college football card here. Let me know who you like this weekend. I read all the comments. I reply back. Appreciate the support. Download the new WagerTalk TV app if you haven't already done so, and give it a quick rating. And I'll be back this weekend, once again, Friday night into Saturday morning. Check for my college football top 25 video. I give you my power ratings and analysis on every top 25 matchup for this Saturday in college football. There's some big games this weekend. Check out the video here on WagerTalk TV. And if you'd like to get a $25 discount on my 7-day all access, check out that video for a special promo code. It's actually on my page. Sneak preview. It's on my page right now, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And Teddy, red hot, 14-2 all sports run. Keep it going on Friday into the weekend, my man, and take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the week here at WagerTalk Today. If you have a chance this weekend, be sure to check out my new TV show, Beat the Odds. Check your local listings on Fox and CBS affiliates all over the country. That's going to wrap for the week. We'll do it again Labor Day on Monday. Yeah, we're working. We'll be here 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon for you back east. Of course, we want to thank Jimmy Adams very much for joining us today. Dave Cokin as well. And let's not forget to thank Kevin Dolan for sharing his boxing and college football with us today. Enjoy the games all weekend, and good luck.
Isn't it refreshing when free really means free? Whether you're a WagerTalk customer, a Sports Memo customer, a fan of our videos, or even if you're not a customer at all, everyone can get this week's edition of Gold Sheet for free. Enjoy write-ups and stat logs on every college football game this week to see the new and improved Gold Sheet layout for this season. To download, log into Gold Sheet's website using username free@goldsheet.com and the password free. No coupon, phone number, or email address is required. It's that simple. Come see why Gold Sheet has been this country's premier football betting newsletter for over 6 decades.